Emmy award-winning composer John Debney is celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Will Ferrell holiday classic Elf. The composer is spending his holidays touring the beloved holiday movie across the country, coming here to the Auditorium Theater on November 25th and the Rosemont Theater on November 26th. John, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Rudy. What a pleasure. 20 years later, here we are.
20 years later, I mean, this movie was a hit right off the bat, but it just continues to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, you can't plan those things. And I'm just so fortunate. I had two movies, one being Hocus Pocus, which is a Halloween movie. And that one wasn't so successful at first, but then it just grew and grew and grew. Elf was different. Elf was just a hit from the moment it came out. And it's become that holiday classic that I think most people of a certain age, I think your generation, my kids' generation especially, just fell in love with. And I'm so happy that it's now become the perennial for Christmas.
And you've done the soundtrack for so many of these movies that I want, everything from Hocus Pocus to I Know What You Did Last Summer. To Elf, I mean, there's so many movies that like you watch all the time that you've been a part of. So thank you so much.
I'm a lucky guy. Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about what the concert experience is going to be like.
Sure. Well, I've been dreaming of this for a long time. You can imagine I've been lobbying for many years for us to go and perform this live with a symphony orchestra and live to picture. And we started doing it last year, and we did it in a few cities, and it was so popular and so well received that we now are blowing it up, and it's going across the country. And I couldn't be more pleased. The fun thing for me when I'm lucky enough to be conducting is that I think it's the closest thing I'll ever know to being a rock star, Rudy. You come out on stage and all of a sudden everybody's yelling and kids are yelling and people are in costume. And it's just
this is your Taylor Swift moment right now.
And yeah, it is my Taylor Swift moment. And I couldn't be more pleased. It's just the joy that the film brings to the audience and the kids and the parents. Everybody laughs at the jokes that we've heard a million times, but they're still so funny. And hearing it with a live symphony orchestra is just, I think you're going to find it's so exciting and emotional. I get every time I'm conducting up there are certain parts of the movie that just get very beautiful and big, and people cry and they scream, and it's just every emotion you can imagine. So it's really a thrill. It's really a thrill.
Especially with something like this. I mean, this is a movie that people either watch by themselves. Every year they gather with their family before or after the holidays and watch it together. But to see it with other fans, to see other fans dressed up, to see everybody, going out to do this. I mean, I can only imagine this is the icing on the cake.
It is such icing. Again, I absolutely love it. I love looking into the audience and looking into everybody's eyes and just seeing, the excitement. And some people have never seen the movie. Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
Lies.
So I've asked every performance that I do, I ask everybody, are there any people here that haven't seen the movie Elf? And there are usually some people that haven't seen it. And so it's even more exciting because for them, through my eyes, to see them enjoying it for the first time with a symphony orchestra, there's nothing like it. It's just magnificent. So I'm just happy to be a small part of it,
And I'm assuming there's a lot of buddies out in the audience of people dressed up.
Oh, they're buddies. There are elves. There are everyone, Santas. It's really, really fun, and I can't wait for your audience to see this because many people don't go to classical concerts that as much as they used to, perhaps, but to go to this, you've got this classical concert, big orchestra, and you get to see one of your favorite films. It's really exciting, and I can't wait to see the reaction and how much it grows, and hopefully we'll do this every year. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. When do you let's go back 20 years or 20 plus years when you were creating the film? When do you come in the process as far as the cast starting to create some of the sounds? When do you come in?
Well, I came in. It's one of those stories that you always hear. I got a call from the agent, and here in Hollywood, and it would, the agent called and said, "There's this movie they're going to make about an elf, a grown with Will Ferrell," and I went, "Wow, that sounds interesting." So I took a meeting with Jon Favreau. Really, such a joy to meet Jon Favreau, who at the time had only done a couple of movies, I think Swingers being one of them. And I met with John. We sort of hit it off right off the bat. And I remember him asking me, he goes, "Well, what do you think about doing a movie about an elf?" And he sort of explained it. And I said, "It sounds great. If you'll have me, I'd love to go on this adventure with you." So jumped in. And then I always start working at the piano. So I like to sit there and kind of tinker out notes and melodies and see what I come up with. So about the first week or two, that's what I always do. And I sort of fooled around with some melodies, and lo and behold, came up with a couple of melodies, played them for John. He liked them, and off we went. And that's how it is. It's just trial and error, and a lot of prayer, and hoping that it'll come out decently. And that's what I did, and that's what sort of I always do.
Especially with this one with Will Ferrell, is it a look? Is it an action? Is it a scene that gets in your mind first that you're like, all right, here's how I want this song to go?
You know what? That's a great question. Yes, I am always influenced by the visual, by the character and what they do. I'll give you an example in Liar Liar, for instance, with the great Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey in that movie is so frenetic, and he's got so many little movements. Likewise, Will Ferrell was so he is Buddy the Elf, and so just I needed to get into his head. I needed to discover that child in all of us, because Buddy is just so childlike and so innocent and loves everything. World's best cup of coffee. I had to get into his mind. I had to get into that and trying to find my inner child and remember what it was like on Christmas Day to come down and see all the presents, hopefully, that Santa had brought. So I had to get into that mindset. And I think through Jon Favreau's great direction and his help, we sort of found that innocence and that fun, that the holidays bring. So it was definitely, I'm always inspired by the actors and actresses. So
you had also mentioned something in an interview that I was watching where you were talking about some different iconic movies, and you take the soundtrack out of there, and it's a whole different experience.
Oh, yeah. It sure is. Have you ever seen Star Wars without the music?
I
haven't, Rudy. You should.
I should do it. Okay, because I mean those
so,
first notes just to set the tone for the movie. Yeah,
exactly. Somebody once, there was a classroom setting or something, and somebody had brought Star Wars with the music track stripped out, and it was literally guys in suits, running down corridors in, like the stormtroopers and what have you, and it was almost laughable because who knew. And so then you hear the strains of that incredible John Williams timeless score, and boy, now you're into it. Now you realize this is something really cool. So yeah, I think music plays a huge part. That's, maybe I'm biased, but it plays a huge part, I think, in the movie going experience.
Oh, exactly, 100%. And even I had heard, not to get too off topic, but even the very first Halloween, that there wasn't a soundtrack to it, and they had to go back and they put that soundtrack. Yes. I mean, that movie is like 80% the soundtrack that scares you.
So true. So true. I heard that story too. Yeah, isn't it interesting how music plays such an integral part in our experience as an audience. And it is fun to look at things without music and then with.
I want to ask you, I don't know if it's just on this project or any of your projects, as far as naming the songs in the score. How does that go about, as far as like, here's a working title, or
a great question. In Elf, for instance, I designated certain themes. There's a Buddy theme, and it's called Buddy's theme. And that's sort of the big theme you hear when they take off in the sleigh at the end of the movie. And you hear that throughout the film, little hints of it. And then there are a few other themes in the movie. There's the elves at work theme, which is sort of frenetic and fast. And then there's the main title theme, which is sort of my homage to Rankin and Bass. And you're probably too young to remember, but things like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer were made by a company called by the name of Rankin and Bass back in the late 50s, 60s. And it's very stylized. And that's what John Favreau did in Elf. That's why the main title is the way it is, sort of stop motion-y. And so I wrote a little theme that incorporates the singers going bum 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 bum, 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 like that, which is very stylistic of those old shows. So those are kind of the main themes, and they are called, usually sometimes it's called Buddy's Flight in the end of the movie. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to title things.
Also, I'm going to keep this lighting for all my interviews because I grew up with those Rankin and Bass cartoons. That every single year I've got the DVDs, and I always watch them, and they always just like bring me back to those childhood memories. So
aren't they great? They people of a certain age that remember them, they're just so charming. I don't know, they make you feel at peace and comfortable and happy. And I love them. I watch them too. I watch them with my grandkids, and they're a little slow for kids these days, but nonetheless, they're so charming and so great.
Oh, exactly. And Elf is one of those movies that, people grew up with it, whether they were in their teens or in their 20s, and then they started having kids, and then that's the movie they watched as a family. And then people were like, oh, this is my parents' favorite movie, and I love it too. And I just love how multi-generational this movie is, because it's just going to live on forever.
Me too. And I'll tell you, I'm so grateful for that, but I want to do Elf 2. And I keep telling John Favreau every time. I think he's sick of me saying it. But I said, John, we have to do number 2. He goes, no, I know we got to do it. Can we get Will? I don't know. But you know how those things are. But wouldn't that be fun? I guess Will would then be the dad, and there'd be the baby would be grown up. I don't know, but it would be fun to do.
We got a Christmas Story. We got that sequel 30 years later. So there's still hope.
There's hope.
Keep calling, keep texting John Favreau, and let's make this happen.
I'm going to keep trying, and I think Will Ferrell, we'll have to keep hitting him too.
Yeah, definitely. John, thank you so much for your time today. Again, November 25th at the Auditorium Theater, November 26th at the Rosemont Theater. Ticketmaster.com for all those tickets, and happy holidays, and we'll see you in Chicagoland very soon.
Happy holidays, and I hope to see you guys all soon. Go to the concert. You're going to love it. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.